Rick Johnson with Idaho Conservation League, and you are witnessing my first ever public comment such as this where I'm wearing reading glasses. It's no longer a time where I can pretend that I don't need them. But anyway, I've been the executive director of the Idaho Conservation League for about 18 years now. Our mission is to protect Idaho's environment. We were founded approximately 40 years ago and have 20,000 supporters, 20 professional staff, and are deeply involved in many issues related to protecting Idaho's water, public lands, clean air, and open spaces. For a number of reasons, we've not had a lot of engagement with issues out at INL or with DOE. So thank you for the opportunity to be here today and talk with you. My comments are provided in a series of very brief bullet points. Nuclear energy has made a very significant contribution to Idaho's history and economy. For that reason alone, it makes sense for the state to create something like the Line Commission. While I'm here to address environmental issues specifically, I recognize there are social and economic issues that are part of the world we're in, part of what's before you. Cleanup efforts are ultimately going to run their course, and the site's mission will evolve with that. Recommendations from the Line Commission will be important as the state considers this inevitable transition. Nuclear energy in every respect is a very challenging issue, so we appreciate that you are engaging interested members of the public. We believe the best way to address difficult issues is with open and transparent discussions, and some of the dialogue earlier covered that, but I would like to also add just my thanks to what you're doing so far in that realm. There's been a lot of important work done at the site to clean up environmental problems. And this is really important stuff and it really has to continue. As we look forward, we really need to focus on making sure this place, to the greatest degree possible, is cleaned up in a state-of-the-art manner. Looking forward, as you inform a changing mission at the site, we encourage you to be mindful of not creating new environmental challenges. Taking care of the mess we have to the extent we can, I think should be job one, and following that is not to create new ones. The challenging budgetary times we're in, I think we all would agree, is the new normal. And the need to ensure we don't create problems we cannot afford to have ourselves or the American public cover the tab for, I think is a real issue for us. But both these points relate to the agreements in place regarding waste entering Idaho, including the Governor's Agreement recently commented on by Governors Batt, Otter, and Andrus. These agreements have obvious importance to the issues at hand, but I want to also recognize probably one of the most important points is how difficult it is to create enduring public policy, especially today. We live in very polarized times, and this agreement remains today a very important policy agreement that was made. It is actually, we came together, we created some closure. And, you know, just as someone who doesn't work on these issues per se, but works on public policy all the time, it is really hard to reach closure. So I think opening up the agreement and trying to start over is, I would just say, from a perspective of policy, a very challenging one. And given that I have a limited amount of time, I will close and offer myself for questions.
Rick, thank you. And if you have other comments, you're welcome to take additional time. We can make that work. So,
I appreciate that.
Okay.
I think I'm good.
All right. Any questions for Rick? Yeah, good point.
Thanks. All right. I'm
well done.
Trying to pull it off.
Mr. Chairman.
Please, Senator.
Rick, thank you for being here today. Let me visit with you for a few moments. And, oh, by the way, these are bifocals.
Yeah.
I appreciate the time in your life when you're obviously of an age where a good eye doctor would tell you, well, therefore you are.
Well, Senator, the first time that I met with you was when I cut my ponytail off to be an advocate for.
Is it because I wouldn't allow ponytails in my office, or what was the situation?
No, I was trying to dial it up a little bit.
All right.
You know, sort of. It's an interesting journey, Senator.
Yeah. Some years ago, the Idaho congressional delegation, in conjunction with the lab, decided that there was more than one mission at the lab. There was a cleanup mission, and there was a research and development mission, and that it was very important to sustain both. I was I participated in, and my staff participated in the shaping of the 1995 agreement, which was dominantly a cleanup mission or a cleanup document tied with certain other elements, not a research document in any respect other than certain tolerances within it. And I must say that I am extremely pleased to date with the work that has been accomplished and the cleanup that has gone on. Quantum leaps compared to what I first was introduced to at the lab in the mid-'70s. One of the things that is important today, and you are certainly aware of it as all of us are, in fact your organization has been a strong advocate for a positive environment, is that we now know so much more today than we did in the 70s with every aspect of the environment and the human's relationship to it. And we have processes in place to safeguard and protect. Federal laws that require certain process and procedure that is knowledge of today that didn't exist in the 70s, whether it be dealing with nuclear materials or whether it be dealing with man's activity in the forests or wherever. And the Idaho Conservation League has been a force in helping shape some of that. I guess my point is would you see a reasonable dialogue going forward about adjustments in an agreement that speak to the future of the lab and its missions, not to waste storage, not to becoming a repository for commercial spent fuel, but in areas where it is believed that the agreement might hinder future missions or future relationships between the state of Idaho and the federal government as it relates to a mission. Could you react to that?
Sure. The Idaho, the site clearly has a research mission, and we would encourage that to remain robust. The history of the Idaho Conservation League is one that involves a strong membership from the Idaho Falls area. One of the reasons we have not had a long history of engagement at the site is because of a difference of opinion, frankly, within our organization, whether it's at the board level, the membership level, staff level, about certain activities that ultimately have something to do with the fact that we have a lot of supporters in our organization that historically have worked at the site. It is not many people in Boise sometimes forget this, but the high-tech center of Idaho historically was Idaho Falls because of the site. Now that said, that doesn't preclude the issues that, for instance, Liz was just talking about at length. They are focused on these things. We are not. That said, for social, economic, and environmental reasons, I would be a strong advocate for a robust research mission continuing well into the future. Getting to the heart of the question, whether that would lead to reopening the agreement, that is something I don't have the expertise or the background to comment on. Mm-hmm. I know that that is part of the discussion. I'm certain that that will be part of what you guys are talking about. But I would go back to my final point. Opening agreements makes it hard to close the agreement. And I think these are challenging times for public policy, so I just leave it at that.
Mr. Chairman, one last question, and this is simply because my memory doesn't serve me well. I knew the position that Snake River Alliance had with Prop 3 in '96. Did the Idaho Conservation League take a position at that time? The
Idaho Conservation League did not take a position at that time, and the governor of the time, Mr. Batt, and I had a somewhat well-documented disagreement about that fact in a land board meeting that ultimately led, I believe, that reporter over there to put it on the front page, which led to an extraordinary set of meetings that Governor Batt and I had where we really cleared the air and made me appreciate both the candor of Governor Batt, but also the commitment that he had, as he said to me in one of those meetings, you know, Rick, I was elected to represent everybody, even you. And but it led to an understanding of what he was trying to do. I think I was able to represent, maybe in ways he had not heard before, some of the concerns of people that were proponents of the ballot measure, but we were not.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any additional questions from the commission? If I may, I'd just like the commission to know Rick and his group have recently had this nuclear issue presented to the forefront in their agendas where it hasn't been traditionally, and I just want to thank you. You have picked this up and been willing to come forward and respond at our request on something that you normally haven't studied. I just want you to know how much we appreciate that and your willingness to be here today.
Well, I appreciate that. I certainly recognize you guys have a tough road ahead, and to the extent that we can be helpful, we will be. I would just say that our focus is not on the breadth of issues that were touched on throughout the course of the day. We're really just focused on Idaho's environment. To the extent that issues come forward or proposals come forward, more to the point, rather than discuss prospective issues, we really prefer to focus on actual concrete proposals. But to the extent that those are coming forward that deal with the environment of Idaho, we will certainly be engaged.
We'll make sure we stay in touch with you. Very close contact. Thank you very much.